Hey everybody, and welcome to Bible class. One more time, would you join me in the book of Judges? I need your Bibles open with me to Judges chapter 17 as our roller coaster survey of Judges reaches its conclusion. We're going to hear the same thing several different times in these last few chapters. For instance, Judges chapter 17 verse 6, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. In Judges 18 verse 1, in those days there was no king in Israel. Judges 19 verse 1, in those days when there was no king in Israel. Don't you get the sense we're being told something important? Here's one more. Judges 21 verse 25. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. The question is, what happened next? Was that a big deal? What did life look like in Israel when everyone did what was right in their own eyes? Judges 17 through 21 gives us three really sad examples. Could I just survey them and then turn it over to your in-person class teacher? In Judges 17, a man named Micah, you see his name right there. He stole 1,100 pieces of silver from his own mother. When he finally told her the truth, she celebrated by giving the silver to a silversmith so that he could make a carved image and a metal image. Does that sound like a good idea to you? Not at all. But Micah took those idols and he made a place of worship in his home, an ephod and some household gods. He ordained one of his sons, notice the language in verse 5, to become his priest. Does that sound like a good idea? No? Later on, when a young Levite from Bethlehem was looking for a place of his own, he came to this house, to the house of Micah. And when Micah found out that the young man was a Levite, Micah ordained him to become his priest. Notice what he said in verse 13. Now I know that the Lord will prosper me because I have a Levite as priest. We're not off to a good start in this section of Judges. In Judges chapter 18, we read about the tribe of Dan. They had been unable to settle some of the territory that was originally given to them in the days of Joshua because they had failed to completely conquer it. They have 5 spies that come to the house of Micah, and they find the young Levite serving there as a priest. They come back, they bring an army, they steal the idols of Micah, and they convince that Levite to be a priest for their entire tribe. In Judges chapter 18 and verse 30, we actually find out that the name of this priest is Jonathan, a descendant of Moses. We have fallen a long ways from the days of Moses. Can I give you one more example? In Judges chapter 19, there was a different Levite, a certain Levite who had a concubine who was unfaithful to him, she left. She went to her father's house in Bethlehem for 4 months. When the Levite found out where she was and he got her back, on his way back home, he stayed at Gibeah with an old man who had warned them, you shouldn't stay in the city square. That night in Judges chapter 19, some worthless fellows surrounded the house. They started beating on the door. And to save himself, that Levite took his concubine, made her go outside, where eventually she was killed. That Levite carries her body all the way back home. And listen, this is hard to even read in Judges chapter 19. He took her body and he divided it into 12 pieces, and he sent those pieces all over Israel. As you can imagine, that bothered a lot of people. It leads to a great war in Israel between the other tribes and Benjamin. There are many thousands of people who die, and a bunch of young women who were just taken captive like property. There are some sad, ugly stories in Judges 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Our question is, why? How? How did the descendants of Abraham slip from where we started in Judges chapter 2 and verse 7, the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great work that the Lord had done for Israel? How do we slip from there to the ugliness at the end of the book? Let's talk about it. I so appreciate you walking with me through this challenging Old Testament book. At this point, I'll turn it over to your class teacher, but I hope to see you one more time in this study next Wednesday evening.